Hi, friends, it's Di Basinger from Chandler, Arizona, welcoming you to a Mindful Loving update. And 2 weeks ago, I shared 3 practices from our book, Mindful Loving, A Guide to Loving with Passion and Purpose. And I encourage you to visit our website, mindfullovingbook.com, and that's mindfulloving with 2L's.com, because my colleague Kathleen Todd has just posted a new blog, and it's called Mindful Practices to Help Couples Manage the 2020 Pandemic. And you will learn ways to manage some of the tensions that can come up when we're spending so much time together. So have fun, checking out our blogs and our videos, because they're designed to inspire you to live mindful, loving relationships. Again, our website is mindfullovingbook.com. So two weeks ago, I shared some of the initial practices of how to be mindful in these uncertain times. And a lot has changed since two weeks ago. We're changing the conversation from ways to stay at home to when and how are we going to be together again. And I'm beginning to experience a movement from chaos to clarity to kindness. As I listen to the news and I'm listening to some of my clients and the people around me, I'm hearing stories that are very inspiring. They're stories of how people are coping, how people are caring, and how people are being kind. So the kindness movement is really a very good example of being mindful. It's a very good example of being present, paying attention, and setting intentions. And so what is your mindful story, right? What is it going to be? Ask yourself, how am I being present? How am I paying attention? And how am I setting intentions? One mom answered those questions by being aware. She was very present to a frustration and feelings of impatience with her children. Both she and her husband are working from home. And when she began finding her 4-year-old at her feet when she was on a conference call, or her 6-year-old bursting into the room because she wanted to talk about her birthday party, she realized she was really feeling frustrated. And so she stopped. She began to realize that was her feeling. She talked to her husband, and they created more of a tag team approach to working with the kids and working at home. And so they talked about setting up some routines and structure for the family. And when one parent was working, the other parent was more vigilant around the children. They began taking family recesses together where they'd get out and get some fresh air, or they'd play a game, or they'd work on the family puzzle. And they'd even stop to share lunch. And so I think the lesson we can learn from this family is to pay attention to what's working for you, and pay attention to what's not working, and how can you modify that to keep yourselves moving. Another parent of teenagers began realizing that they were sitting in front of television having their dinner, and she was missing that dinner time and that family time. And so the family gathered and they started talking about getting back to that habit, getting back to that routine of spending the family dinner time together. And it just opened up a huge conversation. The kids were able to participate in some of the grocery lists. They began creating a schedule for the family to rotate some of the cooking, the setting the table. And it opened up, more conversation about how each one of them was coping with the quarantine and spending so much time together, in one place. Another family began feeling the distance, right? They were far apart. One grandparent was in one part of the country, and the family was in the other part of the country. And so they scheduled time to attend virtual church together. And then they had a conversation afterwards. And so they began to bridge, some of the distance that they were feeling from each other. And the conversations included the 72-year-old grandma and the 7-year-old granddaughter. And so what are some of your stories? What are you going to be sharing? What are your comments that you can share at the end of this video? We've been so blessed to get, your stories and to share them with a larger audience. We've created a guidebook as a companion to our book, and it offers a wealth of exercises and questions that spark conversation to build your mindful practices in your relationships, and especially now, when we're spending so much time together. How can we build on our relationships during this time? So if you'd like to pre-order that guidebook, please feel free to email me at diana.basinger@gmail.com. In the meantime, until our next video, be patient and be kind.